I can never pronounce it. Dufresne? Did I say it right? Senator Johnson? Senator Quintan? Senator Collis? Senator Warner? Roxy? Senator Crock?
Here.
Senator Hebert?
Here.
Senator Bob?
Here.
Senator Samoa? Senator Paul? Senator Pesquo? Senator Pesquo? Senator Dominguez?
Here.
Senator Dinkjad? Senator Stingy?
Here.
Senator Christensen?
Here.
Senator Polk?
Here.
Senator Hoja? Senator Nelson?
Here.
Senator Ramsey?
Here.
Senator Rao? Senator Starr?
Here.
Senator Vega? Senator Cronin?
Here.
Senator Hogan Fleming? Senator Smith?
Here.
Senator Trini? Here. Senator Whitty?
Here.
Senator Wolf?
Yeah, here.
President Abdulaziz?
Present.
Vice President Clarence? All right.
Come here. How long is it?
Where? Oh, I didn't know that. All right, so we're going to move into presentations. The first presentation will be from Outdoor Recreation, and I think there's a proxy here today for Todd. Perfect. Oh, perfect. Sorry. 2 steps ahead of me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My name is Sam Steiger, Program Coordinator in the Office of Campus Recreation. I'm covering for Todd today. He's ill. He's just got a bug. So we're talking today about campus recreation. We're talking about the facility fee that came about a bunch of years back. It's actually dating all the way back to 2007. There was a referendum on the ballot about improving the outdoor fields, which house intramurals, club sports, and a number of other ways for Mavericks to be active on our campus. And that referendum failed. The next year, the Senate moved a lesser amount, approximately $7 million worth of upgrades to the fields. And so my presentation today is solely looking at this facility fee, and it's just a really short, sweet PowerPoint, and I'll answer some questions if you have any. Why the fee? Well, our fields were really in tough condition. A lot of the softball fields, flag football fields, areas for intramurals were in poor repair, and we needed to put some TLC into them. It was a little bit about safety, there was a lot about quality, there was some lighting needs, as well as ever-changing sport demands on our campus. Things like ultimate frisbee, lacrosse, rugby, soccer pitches, as well as flag football areas. We also had some infrastructure. We needed a storage building out there and some restrooms. In the past, users of our field system would have to go all the way to the gauge towers to use the restroom. If they were playing flag football and they needed to go to the bathroom, that was pretty far away. Now the location is actually closer to the women's soccer pitch. The varsity women's pitch has a storage building, and there's restroom facilities there, so it's a lot closer. This is an overview of our south end of campus there with all the campus recreation fields. And you can see this is the post picture aerial photo that is current on campus. A number of softball fields as well as different variety of sport uses. I don't have the ability to control the mouse. But if you look at the lower left corner, I'm going to go to the screen quick. I'm a good loud talker, so just go ahead and listen. But this field right here, one of the things that I think is important for us to look at is uses of our fields have changed over the years. So although this fee is about 10 years old, the use of this softball field, which is an unlit recreational softball field, has been lower than what we expected when we redid all of these fields. So Campus Rec actually is using this facility fee fund to reformat this softball field, and it's going to create a new soccer area on campus because there's quite a demand for soccer on our campus. We've been actually using a very odd space way down off the map near the free lot as kind of our overflow soccer area. But because we saw that demand over here, it wasn't worth keeping up a softball field. now we're able to use some money from this fee, and we're able to provide for the Maverick students that want to play soccer on a more consistent basis. A lot of different stuff, softball fields, lighting, I talked about storage, number of different specialty areas, an outdoor track that has a wonderful surface as well as an interior field. A number of different things were part of this fee, which helped us get our state-of-the-art facilities going. When you look at your student fees, it comes up on your tuition and student fee bill as MS Rec facility fee. It took a lot into account. We actually had a more robust plan with, there was a street basketball and outdoor ice rink, there was tennis court improvements, a number of different things that got struck from the plan when we had to reduce the ask. But this fee went into effect in the fall of 2008. There's a bunch of things associated with this fee. So something that's interesting for you to know as a Senate, and Mark Constantine probably will follow me up with this as well. This is a fee that's very hard, if not impossible, to adjust because we borrowed from the bank, so we're talking about bonding, and the fee for this is $30. We're going to talk about the fee in just a second, but it's $30 a semester. The debt service for this construction is going to be paid back over 20 years, so we are 10 years into it. Fiscal year 2029 is when it will expire. And after that, we are going to have to readdress this because it costs money to keep up those fields, keep them mowed, keep them in good shape, work with grounds, things like that. So let's look at that fee. It's $2.50 a credit. It's banded at 12 to 18 credits, or $30 a semester. Brings in about $820,000 a year in student fees, and it earns approximately $7,000 a year in interest. Breaking that fee expenses down, there's a couple different things. We have to pay off the debt to the bank. So that's about $500,000, $503,000 per year. We have to pay back the Minnesota State System, formerly known as MnSCU, for our fund assessment. That's $14,000 a year. We do have some facilities, maintenance, ground staff that are associated with these fields. They do all kinds of stuff. It's the fertilizer, the seed, the utilities, all the supplies, as well as that grounds position. That's $135,000 a year. We have some R&R, so when the equipment goes bad or if we need to replace stuff, that's built in here at $70,000 a year. And lastly, there is an operating reserve on this fee that allows us 3 months minimum. It's $105,000 overage just in case we need to dip into that reserve. That's the overview on it. The reason that I said that this is kind of locked in is 10 years ago when the Senate decided to move forward with this fee, it's something that was imposed and it was for a 20-year allotment. So for the next 10 years, because we're halfway through this fee is going to stay the same. It's banded at $30, so it's $30 a semester, and there's not a lot of changes we can do to that. But one of the things that Todd and I were talking about that's really important is we do try to constantly assess what the student needs are so that we can keep this fee every year continuing to provide for the MSU students. So changing soccer, if we have any complaints about different fields, some of our fields really get beat up in the spring and fall with mud and cleat usage. So we have to put some TLC into some of the fields that get high demand. I will yield for any questions that you have, Mr. Speaker, or anyone else from the Senate.
Are there any questions?
Yeah.
President Abdulaziz?
Could you go back to the one about how much it is in total that they collected to the fees?
Yes, sir. Breakdown right here.
Yeah.
So every year, and this is dependent on enrollment, so the $820,000 per year in student fees, due to down trending in enrollment, that number probably is not accurate at the present moment. It would be less than that, and I don't have the newest numbers off Dr. Jones to be able to address the exact, but it would be less than 820. Then there's some interest on there. Mr. President, I'm going to switch to the next one, which is going to break down a little more. Talks about the debt service. That's paying the bank back. Minnesota State charges us, because of the large sum of money, there's an administrative fee to put this one in there. Operating operations maintenance is the grounds folks. We actually do have one full-time grounds member that does all of the attentive field work, seed, fertilizer, tractor repairs, mowing. That cost is there. Yep, R&R, typically that's just a responsible way in case a mower breaks down, something happens with the track. It's nice that we have that in there so that we're ready if we need to provide something. And then lastly, operating reserves are common in this size of a budget, so that if there's any need, we can dip into operating reserves.
Are all of those always, like, is it always at the same price, everything except for obviously the operating reserves?
At the last 10 years, this is the formula we've been using, and this is what's been going on. Obviously, due to decline in enrollment, that changes the numbers coming in, but we've been able to operate at that level comfortably, and we've gotten the job done.
So you said it's like for like the renewal one, approximately $70,000 a year. Is there like a minimum that you have to like reach? Or like say you have that $70,000 budget and like you don't use all of it, like does it just carry over? Do you use it in other places? Like are there specific budgets for each one? Like I guess my main question is like, is there a minimum number that you have to reach in each section?
So this fund only meets the metrics for what it was created for. So we're not using any money from this fee in Auto Rec Center. It doesn't cross over into other operations of Campus Rec. In order for us to use money from this fund, it has to meet the outdoor field usage guidelines that were established 10 years ago when we started this. So if I'm understanding your question correctly, it doesn't cross over into other areas. We don't share it in other aspects of campus operations. And then it is a rollover budget, so the budget rolls on a year-to-year basis, and that deems, whether we are able to fund something new or.
My question more. So I wasn't sure if it was like a strict year to year, if it like could roll over if you had left, but that was good. Thank you.
Just to help you on that one too, Todd and his staff make shoes in a given year, not use all that $70,000 because the tractor is ready to break down. So maybe they'll hold $30,000 out of the year before, knowing that they can put that with the money the next year in order to pay for that equipment that's pretty expensive.
Okay, yeah.
I personally was a grad student, and when I played softball in our lit fields, that's the best softball field I've ever played on in my life. So from my perspective, when I was a student, killer fields.
President Abdulaziz.
Do you usually have carryover?
In this account?
Yeah.
I can't answer that. I would assume yes, there is carryover just because it's such a sizable amount coming in that contingency-wise we have to have that carryover.
Any other questions?
Past years have really struggled with the thought of adjusting or nixing this cost center. It's very problematic, and your advisors can tell you more about it, but this one's pretty set from 10 years ago and for another 10 years.
All right, seeing no other questions, thank you very much for your time and for presenting to us.
Thanks, folks.
So next up, it looks like we have Senator Christensen and Cole Kleinschmidt for the Student Union Board budget.
Does anyone know how to set this up there that could help us?
There's no doubt there.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so since it's Valentine's Day, we thought we'd give you all some treats because you are all our Valentines. Because we appreciate you guys. So I got candy. We're gonna pack the rest.
So just a quick comment with this. Please, during the presentations, try to keep the ruffling of the bags to a minimum so that we're making sure that we're hearing and paying attention to the people who've taken the time to bring these presentations to us. So keep that in mind while you are enjoying your treats.
Alrighty, thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, I'm Emily Christensen. I am the chairwoman for the Centennial Student Union Board,
I'm Cole Kleinschmidt, I'm the vice chair.
and we are here to present you our budget for the fiscal year of 2019. So first off, we just want to show you some of the members here, which I'm sure quite a few of them are going to look familiar around the Senate table. But there you go, just so familiar faces, and if you don't know them, say hi to them.
These are the overall departments that make up the CSU. So over the past year, or the past few semesters, their respective department heads have come in and presented their budgets to us. So basically the CSU is made up of the administration, bullpen, marketing, scheduling, facilities, operations, and technical services. Just to kind of expand on one of them, a few weeks ago, Kyle from the bullpen came in and presented his revenue plan and his budget. So basically his revenue was from bowling, billiards, and snack sales. So most of it is pretty straightforward.
I'm just going to touch a little bit more on the marketing there. Some of you may know, but marketing also goes with communication here in the CSU. And the person who kind of deals with that, for the most part, his name is Lenny. You probably see him kind of all over the place taking a bunch of photos and whatnot. But Lenny also deals with the public speakers that come into the CSU, bands, and then with the budget packet that we will be handing out at the end of our presentation, you'll see in there that most of his revenue actually goes to printing here in the CSU. So I just wanted to add that part too.
So this is the overall budget of the CSU. We kind of broke it down into the three main aspects and then the total summary. So 2 out of the 3 are decreases. So total staff salary and fringe is a 1.5% decrease. The only increase is student help by 1.1%, and then total non-salary excluding student help is a less than 1% decrease. So overall, it's a 0.56% decrease in the overall Centennial Student Union budget.
So I just wanted to point out that I'm sure you can all clearly see there is no substantial increases within the changes that are being recommended. So that's a good thing. Alrighty, so here Cole and I have made a handy dandy pie chart for y'all to look at. So we can see that the most substantial area there, the 50%, now that has to do with rent. Some examples of things that correlate with rent is like Wells Fargo and Barnes & Noble. Those are just a few examples of that. The other substantial section there is the 31%, and that has to do with commission. Now, most of that 30% deals with the commission that comes, or the revenue that comes from the food that we have here available in the CSU. And then the other 3 sections are more minimal.
Just to add on to that, I want to point out and make clear that this revenue is independent of the revenue generated by student fees. And this revenue usually shouldn't be stagnant. It's written in the contracts that rent will be increased per year. So this fiscal year, it's a 3% increase for the tenants.
And then lastly with this slide here, when we do hand out these packets, you'll see on page 4 where you'll see this pie chart. It'll look slightly different because it has the exact percentages on there available for you. This one is a rounded up percentage, so it may differ from there, but we just want to let you know that that is the exact percentage that you'll see in the packet. Alrighty, so our overall budget, our revenue is looking to be about $4,248,125. And as you can see there, that's going to include the student fees, the self-generated revenues, which I previously mentioned, the rental income, and some interest income as well.
And then as you can see, this is a zero balance budget, so revenue minus expenses equals 0. There's 0 residual revenue. So basically the expenses come from salaries, revenue fund expenses, bond payments, and utilities. This is a trend in the student fees over the last few years. So the proposed increase for the fiscal year of 2019 is a 0.7% increase, or 8 cents total per credit hour. This gradual increase, such as like the one 17, 18, 18, 19, is much better than waiting on it and having a 1.9% increase like we had in the 15-16 year.
Alrighty, so our overall recommendation is going to be a 0.7 increase from $10.91 to 99 cents. Now, I did want to point out that the reason for this increase is because of the lower projected enrollment for next year, because you can see in previous slides that there were decreases in that increase. So I kind of wanted more specifically to talk about what that 0.7% increase is for and the reason behind it.
So basically on a per year basis, $10.99 per credit times 24 credits, because it's a 12 to 18 flat rate for credits, is about $264 that come out of student fees that go towards the student union. Just to give you an idea of the value of a penny, for every penny that the student fees increase, it's about $3,100 in extra revenue for the student union.
We'd love to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Senator Good?
Will there be any more remodels coming up in the year or two, also including the reflection room? Is that within the next year or two?
There's no current plan for any remodels that would include such room.
Any other questions?
So Emily's just handing out the budget for you guys.
Alrighty, if there are any other questions, please feel free to contact myself or Cole or Mark. We'd love to answer any additional questions that you may have. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Mark, do you have a comment?
I just want to mention one more thing on this, and the budget's going around. The amount at $4,200,000 is the total amount for the CSU budget, but the amount that we're asking students for are actually $3,405,000. As both Cole and Emily alluded to, we're lucky to have an income plan because we have tenants, we have commissions from food service and those type of things. So I just want to make sure you'll see that in the information in front of you. That's an important point. We're not asking out of student fees $4.2 million. We're asking for the 3.4. I just thought that was important. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, CSU. Next up is going to be Wendy with Shaq. Get it if you want. You may. Emily.
Hello everybody, let's get started. Alright, so my name is Shelly Tao. I'm going to present the Student Health Services Fiscal Year Student Activity Proposal. My colleague Kyle Mercer is here. He's due to sick, but hopefully you can bear with me and we'll get through this. So, we are members of Student Health Advisory Committee, and we're currently working with our director, Wendy. Here with me, she'll assist me along as I go. So some of various health-related topics that we have been working on are underage drinking, and marijuana usage, and also our accreditation sites, and also the victims of sexual assault associated with the nurses' exams. So some of the services that we provide here on campus is the medical clinic, pharmacy, health education, and they're all located downstairs in Karkovsky, where the cafeteria used to be. So, and then, like I said, our medical clinic offers primary care, mental health awareness, prescription, over-the-counter drugs, and other health education. Also, if you guys are familiar with Health Pros, they just did a safe sex crown this past week, so shout out to them for that. So, and these are our medical providers. We currently have 3 physicians and 3 nurses. But I think Randy just retired, so we're currently in the process of looking for a part-time position to fill up that his section. So our medical clinic sees about 9,000 visits per year, and we also issue 16,000 tickets. No, that's just visits. Oh, visits. Yes. And at least approximately one-third to one-fourth of our students are seen each year. So our accreditation, just this last year, we had the Accreditation Association of Ambulatory Healthcare come and visit our site, and they just renewed our facility, so that will be accredited for the next 3 years. So the majority of our patients live off campus, but we mostly see about 1/3 who lives on campus. And as you can see, we serve ages ranging from 17 up to 26. And 22% are identified as international students, and about 3/4 consider health services as their primary source of health care. And they mostly see Tanya. No. Okay, sorry. So currently, our facility is located downstairs Karkovsky, but however, in the next few years, they plan to demolish that area. So right now, our primary, we have been conducting needs assessment for it. I'm looking for a space available that's going to take us in, and we are hoping that students, and also we are also looking for students, and the student house is just looking for a way to find a space. Okay. Thank you.
Yep, my name is Wendy Shue, as Shelley introduced me. So just talking a little bit about our services and what we have for our goals. Really get to your budget piece, I think. We'll look at the yellow sheet that we passed around, and that outlines pretty much what you're seeing on here. And that looks at our FY18 to our proposed FY19 student fee, student health fee. And so this year we're currently at $5.41 per credit, which is $64.92 banded tuition. And we are looking at a 1 cent increase. And really a big reason for that is that there is a Minnesota State System student health fee cap that's placed on us at $65 per semester. So that limits us and isn't ideal for our services, but we are able to. A big change that I have seen in my time is that we are allowed to, any surplus or any carry forward, we're allowed to use that in future years. And so that is our plan. We were able to have a surplus because really, as the other presenters have mentioned today, with the projected decreased credit hours from this year compared to next year, even the exact same fee brings us in less revenue. So you can kind of see that in that very first line there, that's a negative $28,132. So even with a 1 cent increase, we will receive about $28,000 less than we're receiving this year. So if I can kind of put it into perspective, that comes out to a 0.18% increase. And if you look at our overall budget, we do project to bring in about $900,000 in revenue, a little short of $1 million in revenue that we bring in through our pharmacy, through our laboratory, and through our medical clinic billing. So that sort of concludes, concludes our Shelley's and my presentation. I'd be happy to stand for questions also, or Shelley can as a member of our Student Health Advisory Committee.
Are there any questions? Vice President Kramer?
So you said the cap was 65. So why does it say proposed semester fee of 65?
It was tough to get that to come out to exactly $65 per semester, and some of my colleagues, some of the student health directors within the Minnesota State System have requested increases over that $65 over the past 5 years. We've been fortunate to not have had to do that. Over that time, they have always been requested sort of that exception. I can certainly check to see if $65.04 is a problem, but I don't anticipate that it would be.
Senator Hojo?
Yeah, mine is more a comment than a question. I'm Dan Corza, and thank you for coming, Mrs. Shue. We emailed, we had an email between me and you, and I told her the problems that I had, and I just want to make a short comment. I would like the staff to be more transparent with students. I went there, I asked what month my child was tested. I wasn't being told, and unfortunately, and I hate to say that, but one of the front deskers lied to me because I went there and asked for the nurse, and she says she's not here, but she was moving in the back, and I saw her. And yeah, that's my comment. I would just like to be more transparent.
Make sure that we're bringing up things that are pertinent specifically to the budget. Although like other things might be important to every individual and to helping students, let's keep it pertinent to budgets. Senator Cronin.
So I know that you touched on the fact that Karkoski will probably not be around in the 3 years after located currently. So do you anticipate that like you'll have to use part of your budget to relocate, and like what year do you think that might, and are you planning that already?
We have been planning ahead for that for quite some time, trying to figure out what this will look like, working with Residential Life, working with Vice President David Jones, looking at the campus master plan of how this will look. As Res Life has come and spoken to you also, they're phase 2C. So they've done phase 2A, they've done phase 2B. Phase 2C is to demolish Karkoski Commons and then to eventually build more residence hall space, to change Residential Life office space. We have been through multiple sort of ideas and plans and actually pre-design that we've been through to look at our square footage. What do we need to how do we need to look differently to serve our students over the next decade? Looking at another pre-design and consultation with that. I think no option is off the table at this point, and it certainly would be a good idea to me to get sort of those plans figured out, because the next plan is to demolish the space. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't.
Any other questions?
Oh, you did kind of ask, will money out of this have to go toward that? We've been building our reserve. We look at what we're paying currently in rent. We pay about $115,000 in rent. We anticipate that money could go toward building space, but we would also have to borrow some money, whether that be from the student activity fee specific to building a health service or how that would look.
Any other questions? All right, seeing no other questions. Thank you both very much for coming here and presenting.
Thank you.
All right, so we have finished our presentations. Is anybody here for open forum? I think we have two, either or. That's fine. Let's go. Is the podium microphone on too? If you want to use that, that's fine too. If you're going to use that, that's fine.
I can turn it this way.
Oh, okay. Then we can do it later then.
My name is Mohammed, and you can call me Sham. I'm a mass media senior/junior student, and if you look at your agenda today, you will notice that there is an RSO that is subject for approval by you guys. It's called ISAC. Anyone ever heard of ISAC before here? Apart from Emily and Cheeky. Okay, so I have a short introduction, and I will take questions if you guys have them, and I just broke the microphone. Okay, so ISAC, it's pronounced ISAC. It started after the Second World War in 1948. When a lot of countries were going through a rough time, bridging cultural gaps between one another, 7 students from all over Europe decided that, hey, how do we fix this issue? So they started visiting each other's countries, and then they decided, hey, why not start a club to do exactly that? Go on exchange and get to know each other's countries so we can bridge these gaps that the war created. So the vision of the organization is peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. We strive to achieve that through placing our confidence in the youth. We provide leadership experiences. They're very experiential because the entire organization is run by the youth, for the youth, basically. And we believe leadership is the fundamental solution, and we don't think that anyone is born being a leader. We think that leadership is something tangible too, and it can be developed in anyone. The top row, you would see the values that we try to create in every leadership experience that we offer. And yeah, we do that through practical experiences and challenging environments. So we run exchange programs, basically. Before I jump to that part, I just want to say that ISAC is a global, independent, non-political, not-for-profit youth-run organization. And to the right, you will see our 6 values that we stick to in all our operations. Okay, so I have a very short video.
Every generation has the chance to shape the world, but the challenges faced today are more complex than ever before. And yet everywhere, education systems are leaving young people unprepared to deal with the pace of economic, social and technological change. The world is defined by the people who live in it, so we believe the solution is to to develop responsible and entrepreneurial young leaders today who will choose how the world will be led tomorrow. Unlike anyone else, we do this by providing practical leadership experiences to tens of thousands of young people all over the world. Since 1948, we've created challenging environments where young people can connect to the world, have the confidence to learn, and have the freedom to fail, where they can discover what really matters to them and realize their potential for the future. We give young people a chance to see the world, because if you see it, then you can start to understand it. And if you understand it, then you can start to change it. That's why we've committed to provide life-changing leadership experiences to 1 million young people in the next 3 years. Because when we add all those leadership stories together, we'll see a truly remarkable impact on the world. History has shown us what just one great leader can do. So imagine what 1 million great leaders can do. This is why we do what we do. But it's your world too. So how will you shape it?
Okay. That was a little outdated video from 2013. These are our more updated numbers. We're present in more than 120 countries. We delivered more than 106,000 experiences, exchange experiences. And these are some notable alumni from the organization. If you want to take a look. So these are our premium partners that we partner with to provide internships and exchange opportunities to the youth. And this is my favorite part. So in 2015, does anyone know what the SDGs or the global goals are? Awesome. Okay. So in 2015, the United Nations General Assembly came together and decided that, hey, let's put these 17 goals for every country to work towards so we can make the world a better place by 2030. And ISEC, being the world's largest youth-run movement, decided to be part of that and decided to mobilize the youth to basically spread awareness on the SDGs. And the best part is it decided that they're gonna shape all their products around it, mainly this product, the Global Volunteer product. They're gonna shape every project they do under Global Volunteer around the SDGs. So Global Volunteer is a 6-week volunteering program where you go abroad to volunteer on a project that tackles one of the Sustainable Development Goals. Is my time almost up, by the way? Am I good on time?
You have 5 minutes left.
Okay. So the best thing about ISEC is that it's an experiential leadership organization. So every year, the management board, whether it's a local committee or a national committee, changes. Right now, the picture you see is the National Committee of ISEC in the United States. It's present in more than, we have a chapter in 31 universities. We delivered more than 1,000 exchanges, 600 plus members. The girl to the bottom corner of the right is the president currently, and the rest are all the vice presidents that run ISEC in the United States. We have internationals and Americans. We have the 3 girls in the middle at the bottom, Romania, Netherlands, Poland, and the rest are all American. So yeah, like I said, they change every year, and it's been voted the top 10 world's most democratic workplaces. This is kind of an old graphic that I just found. I couldn't really find an updated one. So I'll talk a little bit about my ISEC experience. I'm from Bahrain. It's a tiny island from the Middle East, in the Middle East. And I was part of ISEC Bahrain for 4 years. Roughly 4 years. I started as a member in fall 2012. I was a PR member, and the copy you see at the bottom of the picture is basically the tasks that I was responsible for. I became a PR manager, so this was at the airport actually, and half of the people in this picture are interns that we brought from abroad to work on our projects, the projects that students also created all from scratch by themselves. So yeah, I was marketing and social media responsible for creating marketing campaigns for all these projects that we were doing. And we brought in people, like in this specific picture, we have at least 14 different countries here. That was in 2013. And then I got to be part of the executive board for 14-15. I was the vice president of talent management. And I basically did what you see right there. I basically managed a chapter of 60 members and ran the HR department in that chapter. Managed to grow the local committee by 35% in our exchange programs because of the retention rate, etc. And then I started a local chapter back home as well. And that was a local chapter for 3 different universities that I was not a part of. So as you can see, these are all very challenging experiences that I went through when I was between the ages of 18 till 21, sorry. And I truly learned a lot and really saw how the business world operates, how to manage a lot of stakeholders, and get to meet a lot of people from all over the world. And basically the ISEC impact that I had on myself is I developed so many skills that initially got me jobs in big corporations and their marketing teams, including the College of Business in MSU, Red Bull, and a big telecom company back home. It's called Zane. So yeah, if you guys have any questions.
Senator Pesco?
Permission to make two points?
Okay.
So first off, you mentioned before that each of the exchange experiences that you run are geared towards those sustainable development goals. What are like some examples of activities that you would have students doing as you're going on the exchange? Like what separates this program from other cultural exchange programs?
Okay, so we have 3 products. The top one is the only one that's revolved around sustainable development goals. The bottom 2 are actual internships. The middle one is you get an internship at a startup company because that's for entrepreneurs basically. So you can see how a startup runs. And then the bottom one is an actual paid internship at a company. So the Global Volunteer, we create projects, an ISEC entity, no matter what the country is, we create a project. So for example, the project I worked on when I got these people, it was called LeadCo. It's a leadership conference tailored for high school fresh graduates that did not really know or understand what kind of major they wanted to go into in college, or they just needed to sharpen their skills or kind of get prepared for college. So we executed the conference over the summer, and we brought in these interns to deliver the conference, deliver the content, manage the conference, marketing for the conference. So it's these kind of but back then, it wasn't really around the SDGs because that was in 2014. But we have a lot of different projects where, for example, you as a volunteer could, we have a lot of projects around quality education, which is SDG number 4, where we partner with, for example, schools in underdeveloped countries where you would go and volunteer to teach basic English or math. Or it's a huge organization. There's so many opportunities. You can go on the website and you can look for more of these projects, so you can get a better idea of what kind of projects we offer.
Gotcha. Well, and my second point was, so you are just getting sort of like a chapter started within Mankato. What sort of how would that look like as far as operating from here?
Okay, so I'm new to ISEC in the United States as well as Mankato. I moved here like a little less than 2 years ago. So in terms of operations, this is one of my biggest milestones that I just started this whole phase of planning to start ISEC here 2 weeks ago. And hopefully it's going to be registered as an RSO after this meeting. And then from there we're going to start recruiting members, and then we're going to start recruiting people to go on our internship experiences, which is basically Global Volunteer, because as an expansion, we can't really run the other 2 products because we won't really have the capacity for them from the get-go. But in the long run, we will hopefully run the other 2 products.
Gotcha. Can I make one more question?
I'm going to circle back to you. Senator Sneechy, you're up.
What can Senate help you with?
Senate can help me with talking about the organization. If you know anyone interested in leadership or want to develop their leadership, want to develop their business skills, there's so many skills that you can learn from ISEC because it's truly like an experiential development organization where you're just in and then you figure it out and you learn by doing mistakes because at the end of the day it's a youth organization. Nobody's going to come and be like, hey, why'd you do that? We all know it's an experiential leadership experience, so you're here to learn.
So in the essence of time, we have 2 questions left. Senator Good and then Senator Pasquale. Senator Good.
So all the money that's needed for this would be through the sponsorship that was mentioned earlier, not through university funding or anything like that, correct?
Wait, come again?
So all the like sponsorship and everything covers the cost and everything what you guys do, correct?
Oh, you mean like the program costs? Like if you were to go, for example?
Yep.
Okay, so it doesn't, these partners are partners that we partner with to create opportunities, internships for mainly the paid internship, Global Talent. So we partner with these big companies or any company to provide internships. But for Global Volunteer, the student would pay for themselves. It's a fee of $500 and the accommodation would be covered by ISEC. You would have to pay for your flight ticket and the fees for the program, which is $500. These are the 2 things. And your pocket money when you go there. And the program is for 6 weeks long. And like I said, we think leadership is tangible. So the whole process is based on a very specific leadership development assessment that we take you through before and after coming back from the journey.
Thank you.
All right, very last question, Senator Pasquale.
How is the chapter in Mankato organized? Is it just you? Do you have like a board of officers that are helping you run it? And how do you relate back to HQ, so to speak?
Okay, right now I am the only, I decided to start this idea here, and then I recruited a couple of members to work with me to help me out just in the initiation phase. And I have Emily and Cheeky here with me, helping me with that, and a few other members. Yeah, I don't know if you guys will see the roster or whatever. I don't know how the RSO recognition process goes here in the Senate. I guess I'll find out in a few minutes.
And so I can actually answer your question here. Real quick, every week we approve the consent agenda. And so since you've already gotten to this stage, that means that it's been reviewed by, I'm trying to remember exactly, it gets reviewed, it gets brought to this stage, and then Senate votes on accepting it. So it'll be very quickly, if you're wondering about how it gets accepted, you'll just hear the approval of consent agenda, and as long as nobody dissents to anything specifically that, you'll be approved.
Awesome.
All right, so we are going to close questions for time. Thank you so much for coming here and presenting to us today. Go right ahead for open forum.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to President Abdul Aziz, Vice President Cremers, and Speaker Brinkman, and hello Senate, and also happy Valentine's Day to all of you. My name is Dr. Ginger Ziert. I serve as your Assistant Vice President for Undergraduate Education, and many of you that were a part of the Senate last year recall I visited with you almost on a monthly basis talking about the integrated advising model concept, of which I know our Academic Affairs Committee specifically also did some deep dive into last year. And by the end of the academic year, we moved forward with that particular model. And one of the marquee elements in the particular model was to be able to coordinate our advising efforts from a curricular standpoint, policy and procedure, but also from a leadership standpoint. And so I'm here very briefly not to go through that whole landscape because I'm hoping to come back to you all probably in the month of April when you're through a lot of your budget things, and I'll be able to bring a partner with me who will be our new university's director of advising. Which brings me to my point tonight. You may have received earlier, actually on Monday morning at 9:13 a.m. in your email of Minnesota State Mankato an invitation to attend open sessions for the Director of Advising position. There will be 4 sessions next week, 1 session the following week. So we have a grand total of 5 candidates that are vying for this extremely important position of the university. Please know, Senators, that your executive body has been invited specifically to join candidates at lunchtime during their interview session. This position, at the end of the day, it is all about student success, and it is critically important and imperative to have your voice. And so if you have particular questions that you would like to advance, if you cannot join these open sessions, please speak with your leadership crew, and they will be able to very happily advance those questions to the candidate. And so with that, I have no further presentation, but I'll certainly stand for questions.
Were there any questions? Now, okay, I don't see any questions, but now it does seem also like an appropriate time. Ginger is also, we have our Dean of the Day. Ginger is actually currently our Associate Provost of the day, so we wanted to say thank you for coming. Thank you for coming and bringing this to us. We really do appreciate it. Seeing no other questions, thank you.
Thank you. I think there's a question.
Oh, there was a question? Did I? Sure is.
Sorry.
Hi, my name is Brian Scheider, and I'm from IT Solutions. And I just wanted to comment and say how proud I am of all the students at MSU that spoke up on Tobacco 21, and for the Senate for supporting it and speaking out against it. Thank you all very much for doing that. Even though, it didn't pass as an ordinance in the city of Mankato, I think there's still a good opportunity to bring it to the state level. So I hope that students will continue to support that and bring it all the way through to pass a law in the state and throughout the state for Tobacco 21, because I think it's a very worthwhile cause. And thank you for your support.
Is there anybody else here for open forum today? All right, seeing none, we'll move into the approval of the consent agenda. Is there any dissent to approving the consent agenda? Agenda approved. All right, we're going to move into officer reports, starting with President Abdulaziz.
Perfect. Hello. Happy Valentine's Day. Valentine's, whatever the word is. If you don't have one, I'll be your Valentine. Anyway, just really quick, the only thing I really have is that delegates is this week. If you're going, you already know. I've already kind of put the stuff in the group chat, but of course, we're leaving at 1. It's going to be, so specifically for the people who are going to go, I specifically just booked the rooms until Sunday. So, since there are 2 bands, we'll probably talk about that when we get there more. But essentially, the only update I really have is delegates is this week. And it's that time in the semester where people are getting a little bit groggy and it's a little bit more difficult and stress is coming. So I just want to applaud you all for, really pushing through, but then also just keep at it, keep at the grind, get your degree, get your money. But just, stay focused, get it. That's all I'd say.
Any questions for President Abdulaziz? Moving on, Vice President Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to say Happy Valentine's Day. And I am still looking for people for policy review that I mentioned last week. So still, if you're interested in that, let me know and I can shoot some information your way.
Are there any questions for Vice President Kramer? All right, see none. For mine as well, many of you will notice I haven't gone through and approved your office hours yet. We'll do that. It is super important to me. I'm actually being physically crushed by my thesis right now, but it is very important to me. I've also had a couple people mention to me that they don't like the way that we're collecting office hours, just because it's kind of cumbersome to have to resubmit multiple times. So I do want us to continue the current way we're doing it, but over the course of this next week, so if it is important to you and you'd like to see us change how we're going to do it, shoot me an email. Email is probably the best way to reach me, but otherwise I'll also be in the office too. Contact me this week, because if I am going to make a switch, we can switch this week. It's kind of just easier to do it now. If we wait, there's not really any point because we only have so much semester left. Besides that, thank you for sitting through the next couple meetings. will be longer. So thank you for sitting through these longer budget meetings. We're not going to have the nice short meetings like we had earlier in the year. From here on out, it's going to be a little bit longer. We're definitely going to go about that 2-hour time limit each time. So make sure you come prepared. If you do have a proxy coming for you, this is so important that you have your proxy take notes for you on the people who present, and that your proxy is saving any of the handouts and giving them to you, because we'll be voting on these things, and if you aren't informed on them and have to ask a bunch of questions that could have already been answered, it takes a lot of extra time. So let's make sure that if you're not here, your proxy is doing a good job conveying that information to you. With that, I yield. Are there any questions for me? All right, moving on, we have senator reports, and the first senator report is Senator Cronin.
Okay.
And yeah, we're gonna go up. So either that podium or the other one. Make sure you turn the mic.
I don't know if that mic's on. Somebody's going to check the switch.
You want to check the? You can turn on the switch. I heard you. Speak louder.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Okay.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. Perfect. Okay, so one thing that I've been looking into this semester is the different resources for off-campus students and resources that they're not given or lack of given if they've never lived on campus or are going from living on campus to off campus. So for those of you who ever lived on campus, you know you have a community advisor, you have a front desk that's open like 17 hours a day, and just, it's 19 hours, and just lots of different resources. And then when you move off campus, sometimes you lose all those great accesses and bridges to different things on campus. And so I actually know people at different universities through internships I've been a part of that I actually have a friend who works at San Francisco State University, and his role on campus is the coordinator for off-campus student success. And so I've been talking to him a lot just about the different things in his role that he does in order to help support those students who live off campus, and especially the students who have never lived on campus. And especially I have a whole list of things that he's talked about. I'm not going to go through them all with me, but this is something that I'm planning on bringing to student affairs. But one thing that I've done as well is because a few weeks ago, Senator Paul brought in Amy from New Student Planning Programs, and she brought up the Math Connect app, which is something that my friend at San Francisco State says that like his greatest asset is social media and connecting students through technology. And so I was able to meet with Amy, and I plan on she plans on attending a student affairs meeting, and then said she's more than happy to come back to Senate again if needed. But one of the great things about this app is that it connects students academically and through like activities on campus. And so I plan on jumping in with that app and getting the MSSA little portion of the app on, because the app itself won't be able to kind of take off unless the different resources and parts of the university on campus are adding to it. So I'm hoping that MSSA will have our little page there and our what we're about, so that way students that are using that app will be able to access that information. And so definitely for those of you that are in different organizations, or because I know a lot of people here are different leaderships of different groups on campus, making sure that like you're connecting with those people so that way the app itself doesn't fail just because we're not having the different organizations kind of pulling their weight and making that a stronger app for our students. And then I yield to questions now.
Are there any questions for Senator Cronin? Senator Good?
Has the PR committee had any conversation about the name change?
I got your Facebook message and I shared it. So we met last week, but then we didn't meet this past week, and we plan on meeting tomorrow's Thursday? Yeah. And so right now what we're doing is we're kind of brainstorming what just different things would need to happen with the name change, because I know that's something that a lot of people in Senate are interested in doing and want to happen. But just looking at the different logistics, okay, what do we need to change? What will happen after this? So we brainstormed a list of like the busing, obviously, and just the names around campus. Like we have our cute little MSSA wall near the Park Lounge. And so just, our first step is seeing what things we need to change. So obviously like the advertising is a huge thing, and then the website. And then our next step is to talk to the different people on campus and see what that cost will look like into changing those. And then definitely too, like what's a necessity and what's not. So probably something near the Park Lounge is more of a necessity than changing the MSSA logo in our own office, just because if you're in the office, you already know why you're there. But the buses and the Park Lounge wall are things that more students will see. So just going through prioritizing what needs to be done first, and then seeing how much that will probably cost, because that's one of the biggest issues right now is obviously it's going to be an expensive change.
Any other questions? Great, I don't see any more. Thank you very much. All right, next up we have Senator Good.
Happy Hump Day. Yeah. So, first I'm going to talk about Maverick Adventures a little bit. I'm just going to yell. So, Maverick Adventures this second semester has been kind of going a little rough. We've been kind of dwindling. Part of that is because we were told to slow down and not move referendum. Referendum would be to have the cost of Maverick Adventures be voted on by the students at the end of the year. And that's probably partially why numbers have been dwindling. But we have been talking about ways of tabling, doing different activities, stuff like that. We also moved it to a different alternating Tuesday that wasn't during the time of Rec Club. After talking to Rec Club, they only have 2 people there. So I don't know why we're not getting as many people, but keep talking to people. I know the efforts from last semester really made a big difference. Maybe just remind other people, like, we'd love to have them back. Might buy tacos. So moving forward, just going to be looking at continuing the ad hoc committee possibly in the future, and ways we're going to be doing that for at least next year, if not years to come. So that caving trip I talked to all you guys, I think last week, 2 weeks ago, that filled and then some within the first 9 hours. So just saying, it must be needed on campus. So that's doing. So if you did fill out, there is like a waiting list, so that if someone bails out, if you sign up, you might get on. Probably won't, but. So for nursing, Senator Pope talking a few weeks ago about a issue within nursing about if a student wants to retake a class to get a better grade, they haven't been allowed to. And that's a new issue that I haven't really heard about, but I'm very interested in. So I did talk to a senator that's my roommate and friend that is now an actual nurse. And he has heard about the issue before, even though it's not very common, it's still an issue. So that's something that will probably need to be discussed. And also another thing, this is kind of an ongoing nursing issue, is that with how competitive it is, it's kind of hard to get into. Once you are into it, if you weren't to get into the nursing degree, it's really easy to drop. So obviously you want to be competitive because it's a really popular part of MSU is getting into nursing, and the probability of you being hired out through a really good hospital is also good. Moving on about the T21, thank you for your comments. It didn't pass. So what that means is it didn't pass for Mankato, like was kind of talked about earlier, is that the North Mankato one kind of goes null and void, because the fact that if you're, under 21 and you are living in North Mankato, you can just cross over and get it, so it kind of doesn't work in the first place. So it didn't go. Personally, I was a little disappointed in how it went, not because of the voting, but because of the comments of why it was changed, and why it wasn't changed just because they wanted to bring it up higher. So it's a continued effort, and I also want to kind of push to have Senate look at the entire.
I just want to dance for 30 seconds.
You can try picking it out. Yeah, I'm sorry. It appears that there probably is like a club or something in there. That's somebody's doing something.
After wraps your senator report.
Well, I feel like.
Yeah,
Anyways, so yeah, I just want to advise kind of everybody, if you are interested in the T21 bill and seeing that move as Minnesota as a whole, not Cato, maybe that didn't pass, I would advise you to maybe look to those people, talk to those that can maybe see that get done if you're so interested. Moving on with Students United coming up, there's some motions that didn't pass last time about the Environmental Committee. Going to be looking into that, working the environmental for that. Ethics and standards, the transition portfolio. I know a lot of you probably heard about this, but the transition portfolio for ethics and standards is available. So if you ever have any questions about how it works, or if you want to, I don't know, if you just have any questions, like, you can let me know. Abdul too, he was also chair at one point, or you can just look at the transition portfolio. Otherwise, going to be continuing to work on the transition portfolios for Allied Health and Nursing and for American Ventures. And yeah, I'll yield for questions.
All right, I've got Senator Sneechy.
Sorry, you said so much after my question.
You want me to come back? Okay. Senator Rogan Fleming.
Yeah, so I think you're doing great work, thank you. But in regards to kind of allied health and nursing and what you were talking about in that, some senators as well as like some constituents have been kind of concerned about what's being done in regards to diversify the acceptance rate of nursing students, because it's non-existent, if not minimal, if not non-existent. So I'm wondering if that's something that like you've taken on as well, or like if you know anything about that and you've worked about that at all.
Yeah, actually I do. The friend of mine that was in it, you might have met him. He had some of the same difficulties that you're talking about, where there's been some significant, how do I say it, like very obvious reasons of why people aren't being accepted, and those are very unacceptable. And it's a very big obstacle challenge, but it is being broken at small chunks at. I don't know if I can say there's like a direct answer of like how exactly to tackle that, because it's going to be an issue that it's probably going to be here after I'm gone, but that is something that'll be written to the transition portfolio. The Allied Health and Nursing have already talked about that. And one of our sections is going to be like ongoing obstacles, and that's going to be one of them. And then like a step process of how to tackle that issue. Yeah, I wish I could get it taken care of tomorrow, but it's been an issue that's been around for too long. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
You still have something?
Yeah, real quick comment.
Go ahead.
So the diversity issue, I was going to talk about that too. Is I feel like failing a class, you as a nurse, you shouldn't be failing a class to begin with. And so I think that's the least of the problems with Allied Health within the nursing program. But then diversity is an issue that I was going to bring to the committee tonight, because I think it's something that's more important than nurses failing classes, which in my personal opinion we shouldn't be doing as it is. So, but you're doing a great job, so thank you.
All right, I see a couple placards raised real quick. I'm going to go ahead and let a question be asked, and we can respond. Is that okay?
Can I address that?
All right, go ahead.
The grade issue isn't about failing it, it's just about getting a better grade.
I know,
but
so.
definitely, yeah. Yeah, like the individual guy that wanted to get an A was denied the capability to do that, which is a small issue compared to that. So I recommend that, yeah.
Senator Cronin?
I'm just going to comment.
Let's keep it pertinent, but sure.
I was going to say, because I've worked with the registration of nursing before, with orientation, and to my understanding, the way that it works when people want to retake a class in the nursing program, if it's a core class, which there's 8 core classes, you cannot retake it if you have a C or above. So that's the issue with the nursing students when you retake classes, but if they get a C, they can't retake it, but you need like a 2.8 or a 3.8 in your core classes to get accepted to the program.
All right. I did see 2 other hands over here, but are we done? We yield?
Yeah, my comment was pretty much,
All right, Senator
where
Wade.
you said that it was about not failing classes, but just trying to get it better, because I had friends with the same issues.
Senator Wade.
Last year, Diversity Committee did look into why the allied nursing program was white. So, like, I don't know if you want to ask Alex Lucier, who was the chair last year, what information we found. I left after, like, we were actually working on it. So, like, I'm sure, to Senator Flamy too, like, if we ask Alex, I'm sure he has some information about the diversified, as well as Shelley also has information.
Alright, yeah, Senator Flamy, if you want to talk to him personally, I can give you some pointers for why that isn't possible. I was involved with that last year. I also spoke on behalf of I used to be a nurse's student as well, nursing student, so.
All right, looks like we've covered all our bases. Thank you very much for your senator report. Good job to the two senators that went today. I want to go ahead and say, great job with your senator reports. Very informative, and it seems that you got a lot of interaction with the other senators as well. So, good job. Thank you. That's the standard right there. So we want to aim for that. Now that we're done with senator reports, we are going to move into vacancies.
Can we move to like a 5-minute session break before we?
Okay, there's a motion for a 5-minute recess before this. Second, any dissent? All right, 5-minute recess. Be back at 5:21, and then we're gonna do the election. What is the absolute charge? Do I have a second item charge?
I always have some, but I forgot. You get all the it's so cute. Stop.
This is all similar.
You can kind of see that. The other one is people were overusing it so much.
Yeah, goodness, Bob, that's
You're so nice.
Find your seats. Feeling good? All right. Senators, please take your seats. If there is anybody here in the gallery to run for the vacancy election of the off-campus senator, please rise now and I'll have you head over to the podium. Please. All right. So here's what's going to happen. I think I've gotten an opportunity to explain to both of you how this works, but let's just go over it real quick. You're going to have 1 minute of opening statement. I will cut you off if you do go past that minute. I'll try to give you warnings. Like I'll say hey, you got 30 seconds left, 15 seconds left. But I will cut you off. You do have the 1 minute opening statement. Introduce yourself. Then we're going to move into questions. We do have 4 formatted normal questions that we'll ask. And how it's going to go is we'll go in opposite order. And so it's Bill, right?
Yeah.
And Alex? Yep. And so how it's going to go is Bill, we'll start with you for opening statement. And then Alex, you'll have your statement. And then in questions, it'll go Alex, Bill, and then Bill, Alex. And so we kind of snake back and forth for the rest of the questions. And then you'll have 1 minute closing statement. Do you have any questions about how we're going to do the process? All right, you two both look very nice and very well prepared, so very excited. Bill, when you are ready, your 1 minute opening statement, you may begin.
Good afternoon. Yes. All right. My name is Bill Landis. I am a Master's of Science degree candidate in experiential education. I've met several of you before. You may have been out on an education program with me before. I am one of the graduate assistants for the AEP. Been serving that capacity since January of 2017. I am a graduate of Binghamton University, State University of New York, and in my degree there is consulting and leadership with a minor in environmental studies. At Binghamton, I served as a strategic planning intern in the office of the university president.
15 seconds.
One of the things that I bring to the table here for the Senate is being a mission and vision-driven focus, as well as a business background and experiences as that intern in the president's office at another major university. Thanks.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you guys again. My name is Alex Henderson. I'm a finance major with a minor in entrepreneurship. I'm the president of Sigma Nu fraternity, and also I'm on the finance committee for the IB program in the College of Business. One of the main reasons that I'm running for off-campus senator is I know that it's going to be a very short term since elections are coming around again. So there's one main issue that I really want to focus on that's really become true to my heart lately, is the mental health education for people that live off campus, and knowing of the resources that are available to them, and being able to make sure that everybody's aware of all the services that we offer at the university. Thank you.
All right, so now we're going to move into questions. Again, we do have 4 scripted questions, and Alex, you're going to answer first. Question 1, why are you interested in this position?
I'm interested in this position mainly because I really want to make a difference for people who live off campus. I, for one, came as a non-traditional student to this campus, had a lot of great successes with being able to transition down here into Mankato, but there's a lot of opportunities as well that I feel that can make that transition process a lot smoother.
Thank you for your question. Running for off-campus senator, mainly because next year I will be enrolled purely in online classes, but I will be living in Mankato. And so currently I've been thinking a lot about the online students that we have and what kind of representation they get for their interests in terms of student fees, in terms of student services, and how we can best serve that constituency. Thanks.
Second question. Describe your current or past leadership experiences and how they relate to the position.
All right, well, as I mentioned, as a senior at Binghamton University, I did serve in the President's Office in the Strategic Planning Commission. I was involved with the strategic planning process involving 450 university stakeholders, everyone from students, faculty, alumni, to professors, emeritus, community partners, and engaging them on a strategic planning process to move Binghamton University forward. It's called the Roadmap Project. With that kind of background, I have learned a bit about the different moving parts in the university decision-making processes, what slows things up, how things can move faster. So I believe that that particular experience will help serve me well here.
As I mentioned in my opening statement, I'm the president of the Sigma Nu fraternity. Also, I've had many different leadership experiences professionally, along with other organizations as well. I was a loss prevention manager for 2 different retailers, actually, for a couple of years, and then also was the president of a budget committee for the Student Senate in high school as well.
The third question. What do you believe is the biggest issue facing the constituency group you seek to represent? And how might you go about addressing that?
One of the biggest issues that I feel that's addressing the constituents off campus specifically is just the education about like what the programs that the university offers. We have a lot of great opportunities for programs for addressing mental health or mental awareness at the university itself. But for people that have never lived on campus, where it's pretty much shown you at every corner, in the dorm rooms or at school, people don't know about that. And just being able to reach out to everybody else and to make everybody aware of the programs that we do offer here, to get people the proper help that they need if they are not comfortable reaching out.
And my answer is along similar lines. I think one of the greatest challenges for off-campus students is engagement with the university, and that challenge becomes even more difficult as the distance between the student and the university increases. So when we think about the student services that we do offer and how we can utilize those resources off campus, across the state, across the country, we have to think about what are these offices and what are these programs doing to help serve these students. I think as far as off-campus students that live in Mankato, there's also a very obvious campus culture that doesn't necessarily get enjoyed by people who are off campus. And there's a pretty, when I go to functions, it's difficult to even find out about some functions as an off-campus student. When I show up, it's difficult to see how those students were invited and were encouraged to come. And so I think one of the main solutions is looking at how we can improve communications and improve how we market, I suppose, our services to those students.
All right, so the fourth question, are you confident in your ability to meet the requirements of the position? So time, meeting, committees, etc.
To my knowledge, I believe that the time commitment is the meetings each week, as well as 3 hours of office hours, and then committee meetings. I do have a tight schedule. However, I've learned pretty good time management. I do believe that I do have the ability to meet all those commitments, and look forward to doing so.
To answer your question, yes, I definitely have enough time to meet all the requirements. One of my biggest strengths is time management.
All right, so now we finished the questions that we have scripted, and the senators will be able to ask questions for you. First, we have Senator Johnson.
All right. So, what would you say is your greatest strength, your greatest weakness, and how will this position help you improve both?
One of my greatest things that I just mentioned is time management. And it kind of goes along with one of my biggest weaknesses too, which is being able to, or not trying to take on everything myself, and being able to delegate. So it kind of goes hand in hand with being able to improve my delegation skills, so I'm not trying to take everything on myself.
As I mentioned, one of my degree concentrations was leadership. And so there's a leadership point of view that says that the 3 points of being a good leader include being able to recognize all the forces at play in a situation, being able to ascertain the best course of action, and then having the courage to go ahead and do that. I think one of my greatest skills is having that ability to draw connections between different ideas that all play a part in situations. I think serving in Senate will help emphasize those skills, because obviously each meeting we have a wide, diverse range of things that are being considered at each meeting, and they're all interconnected in some ways. One of my greatest weaknesses is impatience, and I think that will serve me well here as well. I believe that there are easy ways to create more efficiencies in what we do. And I think that that's important as far as, we talked a little bit about time management before. If you want something done, ask a busy person, because they know how to use their time efficiently. That's how I feel.
Senator Ramsey?
My question was answered.
Senator Good?
So my question is, what year are you, rather, how many years do you have left? And would you be interested in returning next year?
Yeah, actually, this is my second year in the master's degree in experiential education. I am going to be returning and working on certificate programs. One of the main reasons I'm interested in this position is because knowing that I'd be a third-year graduate student next year, have a fairly well-developed sense of service and giving back. And so, knowing that I've had the experience, been around a little bit, and pretty plugged in, felt like it would be a good opportunity to give back in Senate. And serving in this role this year would be a great way for me to gauge how I might be able to affect next year.
Yes, I still have 2 years left here in Mankato, and I would absolutely plan on running again into the next year as well.
Senator Hebert?
Okay, so you both mentioned that you want to be able to get
I didn't touch it.
on-campus resources more available to off-campus students. And I'm curious how you would kind of like go about that. Like, what ideas do you have to like reach these off-campus students?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I would primarily like to do is, especially with non-traditional students that have never lived on campus before, that have absolutely no idea even where to reach out to find these kind of things, is to be able to go into places, I think I mentioned this last time that I ran, is go into places like a Summit or a Jacob Heights, where they take in students and pair them up with other people that don't really know anybody around here in the Mankato area, and be able to partner with complexes like that to be able to maybe like introduce it into their welcome packets, so that they know exactly that they don't have to, if they needed to talk about something with somebody, they don't have to go out to a hospital and hire an expensive therapist or something like that. They're able to know that the university gives 10 free sessions a year just by being a student. And I didn't know that, and I'm sure a lot of people off campus don't know that as well. But being able to put that kind of information into the welcome packets when they first move here would be one of the reasons that, or one of the ways that reach out to them.
I think electronic communications are going to be huge. Being able to just market out in a wide way what's going on campus. One of the things that at my alma mater that we had is called the Beeline. It went out every single day. Just had a list of events that are going on campus, resources available, any office that's doing anything particularly intriguing. And that email, you could obviously, just send it away and ignore it. Or for someone who is interested and wants to be involved, as a fantastic resource for being able to understand what's going on campus and be there. The other thing I would say is that I won't come with all the answers. I think that there's a learning process involved, and knowing what kind of resources each department and each student service program has, and being able to use those most effectively. So I look forward to learning more about how we can do that.
Are there any other questions? All right, I don't see any other questions, so you're each going to have 1 minute closing statement. I'll give you the same 15-second heads up as well once you're getting towards the end. The time will start when you are ready.
Thank you very much for your time and for your consideration. I look forward to potentially serving with you coming up. I do feel as if that what the mindset that I bring to the table would be useful and helpful as we go into figuring out budgets coming up. I've sat through, not the meeting, the entirety of it with you last year, but I did this part of it, and so I have some idea of what's to come. And I hope that I can serve well.
All right, thank you for everybody for your time. I know it's been a long day so far, but hopefully I'll be able to participate with you guys in the upcoming meetings as well. One thing that I really wanted to just strive at is, like I said, it is a very short term, so I'm not going to come at it with 45 different ideas. I'm going to focus on my one thing that I'm really passionate about, especially this past semester, and I would hopefully I'd be able to bring those new ideas to you guys as well. Thank you.
Let's have a round of applause for the both of them. So thank you both very much so far for your time. We are going to ask that you're going to head out now, hang out in the hallway down there. We're going to have some deliberation, and you'll be asked to come back in shortly after that. All right, we're going to move into a discussion, and it looks like Senator Cronin is up first.
Okay, so I really appreciated Bill and the ideas that he has. Especially, I think he could make a really great senator because of his unique approach of wanting to consider the distance learners that we have, and they definitely are off-campus students. And that is, I think, a huge issue that we have distance learners who are paying student fees and CSU fees, which yes, it does aid the rest of the campus, but these could be people who are living hundreds of miles away that have never stepped foot on campus. So I think having someone on Senate with that mindset could be very useful to us and to our distance learners.
Senator Sneedy?
Yeah, so Mimi spoke a little bit to my point too, but for some of you might know, the Office of Provost is currently working on this online learning program that's going to be brought to Senate. It's going to be brought to every student. So basically what they're trying to do is try and have as many majors that they can put into, like, have a full, like, 100% online degree for different students, and they are looking into what the fees are going to look for those students. And I love it that Bill brought that up, because this is something our university is currently working on, and that'll be a great asset for the Office of Provost and people who are working on it. So just a heads up for that.
Senator Pesco, did you still? Senator Warner?
Yeah, I have to agree with both Senator Cronin and Ms. Nietzsche. So, yeah, I think Bill has a lot of great ideas, and not only does he have ideas, he's also willing to learn and to reach out to the people that he needs to. I just wanted to point out, I thought it was a little bit fishy that Alex kind of introduced his idea of mental health awareness when last time when we had an election for off-campus senators, Senator Ramsey ran on those ideas, and he didn't mention that at all until now. So I wanted to point that out.
Senator Ogunfalami?
Yeah, a lot of really good points I do agree with. Going back to Mimi's point about like creating that, reaching out to students on an online platform, as well as like the idea that we're creating a better platform for people to interact online. I think it's important too, because I can reach out to non-traditional students as well, because some students, you know, have kids and they work online to get their degrees. So I think that's also a new perspective. It's not just the online students that we have that are on campus, but the online students that we have that are non-traditional students as well. So and I also think that Bill brings a lot with maturity, like even the way that he was speaking and presenting shows a lot about his character, I think. So I think that he can bring a lot of new perspective. Maybe us as, you know, youngins might not be viewing it in the same way, or, you know, any other ideas through the experience that he's had as old university, as well as like with age and his master's here.
President Abdulaziz?
Yeah, I thought a really good point that was being brought up was an idea SQ had in terms of like reaching off to like people who live off campus, was the fact that like if you live on campus, you get those like weekly things about like scholarships and stuff and like what's going on campus. And Bill touched on the idea of having this email literally sent out, because I live off campus now, and if I did get that email, maybe I wouldn't go, but I would know. Like, I would know that this thing is happening on campus, I can go to these events, or I know that this thing is being put on by these people and I can go and ask them for help in terms of, so they can serve as a resource. So I thought that was a really, really cool idea that actually has some potential of being done. Just logistics. Also, I really like his statement, Don, if you want something done, ask a busy person, because I think that speaks a lot about commitment. Because if you do take the mentality of a busy person, they're doing all these things because they want to commit to it, because they have a passion for it, and they're always trying to make it work. So I thought that was a really good point that he made. So, is that you?
Senator Good.
So, a very unique thing that I think Bill would bring is that he has experience in the adventure education program, which is an outlook that will be much needed in the future when some of us that are really into the recreation portion of things are gone. Also, the environmental studies aspect of that would really go well into the environmental committee, and I think would be an important asset to that. I asked if either one of them or both return to Senate, and I did that with the same purpose of why in the past I've said we're looking for the future, not just for like the big meeting coming up. But the most important thing is that I noticed that he said that his weakness was impatience, but if you have a beard, you have patience. So there's also that.
Senator Ebert?
Okay, so I was actually a really big fan of Alex. One of the things that he mentioned was the idea of off-campus living and students who are non-traditional students who do not start here their freshman year. and live directly off campus have a hard time finding places to live or roommates to live. Being like a graduate student, you run into that a lot, and that's something that I've been working with, and I think that's really important to like keep in mind, and I was a really big fan of when he said that. I also really liked when he said too, like, he mentioned at the end that the term that they're about to serve right now is very short, and it can be hard to take on 700 things at one time, or whatever he said. And so I think that if you have something that you can pick on and put your time into for a short term, because we're done like, what, mid-April, you can do that now, and then if they come back next year, start over with a new project, or continue on a project that they're working on. So I liked Alex's points that he made.
I also agreed. I really liked how he looked at it from the standpoint of a non-traditional student. Having the in the resource booklet that you get when you move into a place, having the resources all there for you for the campus would be really helpful. And that's also like, since I've been in the Senate, nobody's ever suggested that before. While almost every single person that comes up here suggests online, like sending emails to people. Also, like kind of comment on like the personal attack about how fishy it is that he said what somebody else said previously. You guys have no idea what he goes through in his life. You have no idea what has happened to people that are close to him and his friends, and like what he's gone through the last week. So kind of to say, oh, he stole that idea when you have no idea like what his friends and what has literally happened in the last week to him, and to say like he's wrong for that is terrible. And so I yield.
Senator Cici.
Yeah, just that. I agree, but then again, it's for me, it shows that I understand that, but you can still add the point that you were so passionate about before. When he came here, he attacked parking, he attacked like how bad it is. He was just talking about how horrible parking is and how he's going to fix it. And I understand personal things, everyone goes through crap, and it's very understandable, but then you can't just forget that you were not passionate about that. I totally agree with you, but then again, he should have mentioned that too, because we already know what he wanted to work with. And I just wanted to extend, this was not my point, but I wanted to extend to what Griffin was saying. Bill actually came, when we were playing bowling, he came to us because he wanted to know more about Senate, because he wanted to run last week, like the upcoming year that's coming, and we were like, oh, there's an open position. He was like, oh, I should probably try for that too, just so I can get familiar with what Senate is, and just the community of Senate and how just to know the feeling of how that all is. And I think just him coming here and showing that he actually really wants to learn about Senate is, for me, is very honorable, and I appreciate that.
Senator Roth?
Yeah, about the mental health going on with us. Maybe he was passionate about it, but he didn't think it would get him the position, but once it got her the position, maybe he thought, let's speak on it. He might get me the position too. And he might be passionate about it more than parking, so because it's more important than parking than today. I agree.
Senator Sar?
Just to touch on that, I don't think he is passionate about it, but he only used mental health as an example, as in people don't know about programs that are happening on campus. So I don't think he used mental health as in that was his overall point or focus that he was using. He just used that as in, for example, he could have used science or anything else. Mental health was probably just the first thing that came to his mind. So I think we're approaching that we're not approaching that the right way. I think he just used that as an example, as in it could be any other program.
President Abdulaziz?
Call a question.
Any dissent?
Nope.
All right, we're gonna vote on it. Go ahead, take out your paper slips. Make sure you write their full names on it.
I got one. This is from the old reduce, reuse, recycle, right?
I think so. From something. I know it's some jingle on a TV show.
One takes patience, the other one and I'm sure I'm very
Cut that into 4. You cannot keep it inside. Road trains are important.
Thank you.
These are very important. Look at this thing. What are you wasting people?
Michael was in February. It's a lot.
What's the name again?
That's the most important one. I almost forgot it. Look at that
I like ice cream.
Took you back to your life and so you can get I know. Yes, I know.
Valentine's Day is a shame. That is why it's complicated. It's not about
Because like they might get working because they're like
I thought you were going to rush yourself like you
good. Like someone my boss is like I don't think
That's really what it is. For y'all. Open your eyes. I can't leave. That's what she
once I forgot.
All right, so I'd like to announce that there has been an election. Thank you both for all of the hard work that you put into coming here and to speaking to us today. It honestly does mean a lot that we have two quality candidates running for positions because it makes it easier for us to fill Senate with the best members that we can. And so without any further ado, I'd like to congratulate Bill. Bill, I'm going to have you step up to the podium and we're going to do an oath. So I'm going to have you step up to the podium, raise your right hand in an oath-like position. Please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Bill Landis,
Will represent and serve
will represent and serve
the students of Minnesota State University, Mankato
the students of Minnesota State University, Mankato
in student life and academic needs,
in student life and academic needs,
and will uphold the mission,
and will uphold the mission,
Constitution,
Constitution,
and bylaws
and bylaws
of the Minnesota State Student Association.
of the Minnesota State Student Association.
I so affirm.
I so affirm.
All right, another round of applause. Around the table. All right, so is there anything for new business? Seeing nothing for new business, we'll move into announcements. Any announcements?
I would just like to say that the handball team is traveling to Missouri State for nationals next week. If you're not familiar what handball is, it's just like racquetball, except with other hands. Super fun time. We'll be gone Tuesday through Sunday. Last year we got second at nationals, so we're a little salty, so we're going for a title this year. So if you know anybody on the team, wish them luck.
Sarah Presco.
The interview plan with the students at the Lincoln Community Center is coming up this Wednesday. If you've not already spoken to me and you're wanting to go and you're also wanting a ride there, let me know. Either text message, email, what have you. And hopefully it'll be a successful event. Thank you.
President Abdulaziz. All right. John?
The budget cycle has begun, folks. What you saw today are examples of what you're going to see over the course of the next 3 weeks. Those two that presented today, three technically. Next week you will have the large student activity fee budget presented for you. What you're going to be receiving next week is a large spreadsheet printed out. It's going to be a fancy color printed sheet that's going to list what the different fee groups have requested. You're going to see probably at least 2 years of their allocation on there. And then you're also going to see what the Student Allocations Committee has recommended for their allocation for next year. You're also going to get a packet that has what's called the narrative in it, where it lists each of those fee-funded areas, along with what their request was, what the recommendation is, and a brief rationale for that. Okay? That's what you're going to receive next week. So you're going to have the opportunity to hear that recommendation and to ask some questions. Next week may not be the best time for hugely in-depth questions. What we want you to do is we want you to take care of that outside of this meeting so that after the meeting on March 14th, you come informed and ready to make a decision, okay? We really want you to ask questions of these departments about their budgets because that hearing on the 14th is really when the decision making happens, okay? Those folks will like, at least on the 14th, my guess is that Kevin Beisman will plan to be there because his budget's up for discussion and voting on that day. Mark will be there at that meeting. Teresa Schwartz, the business manager for the CSU, will be there. She has in the past. I'm not sure if she plans to be for the long haul this time. No, she won't be. Okay. So, but those... Mark and I will be there. Kevin Beisman will likely be there. But this is a big deal. We want you to be informed. We want you to ask questions. During that budget hearing on the 14th, hopefully there are no bombshells. Okay? Nobody likes to be snuck up on and have a big surprise happen during that meeting. So we want you to be informed, ask questions, read the budgets. If you have questions, feel free to ask any of us who've been through this before. This happens every year. The thing that will be a big change for this group is that during that budget hearing on the 14th, if it looks like there's going to be a recommended increase of more than 2% to either the athletics fee or to the student activity fee, y'all are going to have to come up with a backup budget, okay? Because if it does exceed 2%, that means that recommended budget's going to have to go to a vote of the student body, okay? And that's not a bad thing, okay? We've never, it's been years since we kept something to 2%, okay? Because the threshold before has been 3% that has come from the system office. That's been the recommendation. So if you look back, historically we're right in that 3% ballpark, 3 to 4%, okay? So 2% will be a challenge, okay? And so to go over 2%, not a huge deal. We just have to put it up for a vote to the student body. Okay, so we don't want you to be scared of 2% or higher than 2%, but just know that that's what we got to do. In case, if something does go to a referendum of the student body, and it were to fail, that default would be back at that 2% mark. And so you all are going to have to come up with a backup budget that would be that default if it were to fail at referendum. Okay, so those are the differences between what we've done in the past and what you're going to need to do this year. Okay? So that process, we don't know how it's going to play out exactly. Okay? But we're anticipating that you're going to need to come up with 2 scenarios during that meeting on the 14th. Okay? But ask your questions ahead of time. Try to be as informed as you can. If you need to talk to other people or you need to talk amongst yourselves about stuff, try to do that. Okay? Again, our purpose, these people have spent months developing these budgets, putting together presentations. The Student Allocations Committee will have spent hours going through their recommendations for you. And so we want to try to avoid big surprises during that budget hearing. Okay? So we want to try to be fair to people who are around. So that's just what we've got coming up. So next week is the big student activity fee budget. That is the only budget you'll hear next week. The following week, athletics will present and technology will present their budgets. Okay? Then you have spring break. And then we come back for that long budget meeting on the 14th. Okay? So it's going to be a whirlwind, especially if you're a newer senator to this, or if this is your first budget cycle doing this. Ask good questions. Okay? We want everybody to be informed and be ready for what's coming down the pipe. Okay? Before I move on to my next announcement, are there any questions about that?
Senator Gershman. Does SAC present last, or when does SAC?
Next week. Next week. Yep. So next week is SAC. That's the only budget you're going to hear next week. Okay. So the 14th, the meeting after the long meeting after spring break, the only budgets you're going to be voting on are the student activity fee budget, which is what SAC will present, and the athletics budget. The reason we're voting on those 2 in the same meeting are those are the 2 budgets that are subject to approval if the recommendation is more than 2%. Okay? So on the 21st is when the other 3, technically 4, budgets will be up for a vote. But those ones aren't subject to a referendum if they exceed 2%. Okay? That makes sense? Okay. Other questions about where we're going in the next few weeks? Okay. My other announcement, I'm going to put on my student activities cap right now, just an announcement for Ashley Strom. If you're part of an RSO, you may have seen this via WorkSync. But the Student Leadership Awards, which are sponsored and coordinated through the Student Activities Office, the deadline for nominating or applying for those is this Friday. It was initially last Friday, but that deadline was extended for a week. So if you know a rising star who is a new student at the university who's making a big impact, if you know an unsung hero, somebody who's not usually recognized for stuff but doing a heck of a job on campus, if you know a student organization that has done outstanding service for the greater community, if you know an overall outstanding student organization or outstanding collegiate, please nominate or apply for those awards. Okay? So those are available in WorkSync.
Thank you, John. Senator Sarr?
Yes, the African Student Association will be having the Battle of the Sexes next week on Friday. So if you guys want to sign up for the guys, you can Snapchat me or get my info after this meeting, and just let me know. There'll be different activities which you will participate in against the females. You expect to win, as usual. Okay. If you guys want to sign up as well, you can come to me or go to Sarafina. I don't guess you guys don't know her, but if you do want to sign up for the females as well, you can just let me know and I'll let her know. But it will be next week Friday at 6 o'clock at the CSU Ballroom. Be there, please. It was a spring day.
So I was asked by the president of like FTC Club, which comes to be the Fashion and Choreography Club in campus, that they are organizing this Top Model Menquero 2018 next week. Well, I think the registrations already are closed, but this person asked me from somebody who is a fashion enthusiast, if they would like to participate as a judge of the models. Well, that's not something that you guys are interested in. You can just contact me. I will put you in contact with the president, and that's my announcement.
Oh yeah, for the guys, by the way, your president is doing it, so you might as well join in, you know what I'm saying? Go join in. That's all I'm saying. Thank you.
Mark?
I just want to thank those senators that participated in the bowling last week. I think we all had a great time. Nice to be able to get together socially and enjoy ourselves. Bill, I think you did a terrific job of being passionate about the event and really trying to get people pumped up. We enjoy it, administrators enjoy it as much as you do. Hopefully you enjoyed it too, but it's nice to be away from this room a little bit and have fun with each other as well. So thanks for your involvement. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Next time, don't wear suits.
All right, are there any other announcements? All right. Seeing no other announcements, we're going to actually adjourn meeting. It's after 6 p.m., so I'm not going to collect roll for the end of the session. Adjourned at 6:05.
I can't believe I did it. Almost passed out.
Senators, we have a meeting right after.